In the long history of ancient Rome, there was a period called the Reign of the Five Good Emperors: Nerva, Traiani, Adriani, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. Under these leaders, the Roman Empire reached its highest prosperity and was characterized by stability, compliance with the law, and pretty high standard of living of its citizens. And what's unique is that all these rulers became emperors not by direct inheritance, as in some other eras of our human history, but by being adopted by previous rulers. What principles guided these people, especially Marcus Aurelius, who was dubbed the Philosopher Emperor? Let's analyze him deeper and take a trip way back to the 2nd century AD. We know that night is the best possible time for a philosopher, when no one prevents him from putting his thoughts in order and when it comes to putting them in his writings. Thence, although it was dark over the Villa Lorium near Rome, oil lamps burned in the emperor's room. Marcus Aurelius himself sat at the table and looked thoughtfully at the half-written piece of papyrus. Although no one seemed to interfere with him or distract him with matters of state and diplomacy, but nothing clever got into his mind. And to distract himself completely, he decided to look back on his life, both before and after he was proclaimed emperor, and what allowed him to rise so high that he can unashamedly and even proudly share with future generations. You're watching the channel about power, strength, and money, wealth history. And today, let us present Emperor Marcus Aurelius, one of 5 infamous good emperors of Rome. Vast knowledge and critical thinking. Marcus Aurelius was born into a noble patrician family, although his ancestors had been assigned to this class of citizens only about 100 years ago. Nonetheless, they fit in perfectly and raised their children in the traditional Roman way. His grandfather made sure that his grandson received the best possible education, and the result of these efforts was not long in coming. The young man made an impression on others with his vast knowledge from comparatively young age. Marcus understood its value early on. It was his first life lesson and his first step towards the pinnacle of power. The second step was his adoption by the 3rd husband of Emperor Adriani's mother. But when the young man turned 18 years old, the husband died and the already quite mature man for those standards was then adopted by the newly elected emperor Antoninus Pius. This meant that he would become one of the candidates for the coming Augusti, as the Roman emperors were commonly called at the time, which at its core meant that he had to prove himself in supervisory work. In passing, at the age of 17, Marcus was appointed quaestor, an official who's in charge of finance and archives. 2 years later, he was promoted to consul and held this position for 3 consecutive terms. That is, he came to power from the very bottom and was well versed in the mechanisms of the functioning of a huge and most powerful on the continent empire. At the time, Marcus Aurelius began to study the philosophy and essential moral and other aspects of life around him, and these lessons taught him a lot. Already in adulthood, he noted what exactly it gave him: distaste for an essential, distrust of the tales of miracle talkers and various wizards. In other words, he was a critical thinker and always tried to get to the, let's say, core elements of given matter. When Marcus Aurelius turned 40, he experienced a loss. Died his adoptive father, Antoninus Pius. Even now, remembering this after many years, the emperor felt a longing inside of his heart. He had great admiration for his adoptive father and had learned a lot from him. In particular, respect for the Senate and other structures of Roman power, as well as its legitimacy and continuity. He taught him to live by interests of the state and its citizens. And consequently, after the death of the emperor, Kaiser Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Augustus became his successor. However, his power was shared with another adopted son of Pius, Lucius Verus. He was not known for his intelligence and abilities, he had an openly bad temper, and it's not surprising that many advised Marcus to simply get rid of his partner in rulership. But above all else for the new Augusti was justice, and so he ruled the empire honestly together with his brother, despite brother's weaknesses. It was not until he died 8 years later that power was fully in the hands of wise Marcus Aurelius. Honesty and mercy. the ultimate truth. A man must be honest by nature and not by circumstances. That is what he said and what he indeed followed. His honesty was noted by everyone around his circle and respected even by those who thought Aurelius was too soft by nature. Although he was not like that at all. His stoicism originally implied courage and firmness in the face of life's hardest tests. And certainly, the emperor fully deserved the title of Good One. He began to improve the system of justice in Roman law, encouraged trade, and once and for all during his reign solved the problem of food supplies to Roman provinces. He did his best to preserve the institution of support for orphans and children of low-income parents, paying them aliments for their lives. And yes, the word is extremely well known today, and that's exactly why, since it comes from ancient Rome and is part in this aspect of civilian life. All contemporaries noted the mercy of Marcus Aurelius, who preferred to do majority of things without the death penalty. For his humane approach and value of one's life, the emperor was respected by all strata of society, senators, patricians, plebs, and freedmen as well. The man had no regrets, and he acted out of conscience rather than hatred or arrogance. May your deeds and actions be as you would like them to be remembered in the declining years of your life, he said aloud and immediately perked up. This thought definitely had to be written down, and for a time the emperor's moments of memories were interrupted by this occupation. Looking forward a few steps ahead. Aurelius began to keep his ideas and thoughts in written form a long time ago. It was something like a diary, in which he wrote down everything that, in his opinion, deserved attention and was worth leaving for posterity, including his own children, of whom he actually had 12, although only half of them survived to the age of adulthood. And of these 12, there was this one boy, Commodus, who outright disturbed the emperor. After all, he didn't possess the virtues of his father, was not interested in any sorts of studies, preferring to watch the training of gladiators for hours and attend their fights, and laugh when the blood is being spilled. And these are bad news already. It will be difficult to count on him as a successor. Emperor's heart descended for a moment. A vague and unpleasant premonition took possession of his entire body. He's not yet an old and quite unhealthy man, but still, what will happen after his death? If his cruel and weak by spirit son Commodus becomes emperor, won't that bring trouble to the entire Roman Empire? Anyway, while he's not yet at that mature age, it's probably still worth waiting. Perhaps he will still come to his senses and understand what a real duty and dignity of a man is, which had been with him since his youth and which he had followed, even though there was some trouble with his belief system. Do what you have to do and let it be what it will become. Do not do what your conscience condemns, and do not say what is not in accordance with the truth of things. Observe the most important thing and you will fulfill the entire task of your life. So he once wrote in his diary and always tried to follow it. However, the wars were in harmony with his sense of duty. Rome had to be secured, if not forever, then at least for a long time, with him and after him. You have to be able to conquer with mind the things which can't be conquered by raw force. Marcus Aurelius thought sadly. Lamentably, too many people do not listen to reasoning and prefer brute force to achieve their goals. It was always that way. Well, today, the empire is able to explain to the barbarian peoples the depth of their errors, and they will soon know the wrath and vengeance of Rome. The emperor rubbed his temples tiredly with his palms. It was already late and he was beginning to fall asleep. His thoughts began to mix and were not clear. Well, perhaps it's time to relax. But firstly, he could go out on the balcony and look at the infinite sky in complete silence. It's always reassuring, even though thoughts of one's own insignificance in comparison with the vast universe come to mind. But it does not matter at the moment. Nature is nature. Everyone lives only in the present, an extraordinary small moment. Everything else has either already been lived or is shrouded in obscurity. Insignificant is the life of everyone. Insignificant is the corner of the earth where he lives. Insignificant is even the longest glory after death. It lasts only in a few short-lived generations of people. That phrase had once occurred to him after such an astronomy session of observance. Death didn't bother him much, though the Stoics to whom he belonged were befitting. except that the anxiety about the future of his beloved Rome did not disappear. Probably, it was worth starting to look for a more suitable ruler than Commodus. No. It's better to wait for now. If you liked watching this episode and found out something new, leave a like and subscribe and help the channel grow. And we'll see you later on Wealth History.